Welcome to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up, where we break down the intelligence and national security stories making headlines around the world. With over 25 years of experience in intelligence and law enforcement, Neil Bisson, the director of the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network and a retired intelligence officer with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, offers insight that goes beyond the news cycle. This week, we begin in the UK, where a Romanian national has been arrested on suspicion of assisting a foreign spy agency. Authorities are investigating whether a DHL warehouse fire is part of a broader Russian sabotage campaign across Europe. Meanwhile, in America, the CIA is reviewing its legal authority to use lethal force against drug cartels. Is this the next evolution in counter-narcotics operations, or a risky extension of counterterrorism doctrine? And questions continue to swirl around the FBI's role in the January 6th Capitol Riot. US intelligence is now examining whether bureau informants were involved. Over in Taiwan, 4 soldiers, including members of the Presidential Security Unit, have been jailed for passing secrets to China. It's another warning about the real and growing threat of insider recruitment. Plus, new cyber attacks, foreign interference on the Canadian campaign trail, and explosive claims that Meta may have put Chinese interests ahead of US national security. Stay tuned as Neil unpacks the week's top stories and explains why they matter. Now, let's begin.
Hello, and welcome back to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up, where we examine stories shaping the world of espionage, foreign interference, and national security. I'm your host, Neil Bisson, a retired intelligence officer with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service and the director of the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network. From foreign interference and foreign financial support on the Canadian campaign trail, to the FBI being implicated in the January 6th Washington riots, it's been an exciting week in the world of intelligence, so let's dive in. At our first story, we're heading to the UK, where a Romanian national has been arrested on suspicion of assisting a foreign intelligence service in connection with a fire that broke out in the DHL warehouse in Birmingham last July. UK authorities are investigating whether this incident is linked to a broader campaign of sabotage across Europe, suspected to be orchestrated by Russian intelligence. Counterterrorism officials in the UK have been leading the investigation since July 2024, where a package ignited inside a Birmingham DHL facility. Thankfully, there were no injuries or significant damage, but the circumstances raised suspicion almost immediately. What made this incident stand out was the similarity to fires reported at courier depots in Germany and Poland. In those cases, investigators found homemade explosives hidden inside packages containing everything from cosmetics to sex toys. The recent arrest of a 38-year-old Romanian man occurred on March 19th at London Stansted Airport. Authorities suspect that this individual was acting on behalf of a foreign spy service, potentially Russia's GRU, which has a history of covert sabotage operations. These developments align with growing concern across Europe about Russia's interference and covert action. Last October, the Director General of MI5, Ken McCallum, warned that Russia's military intelligence agency, the GRU, was conducting a campaign of sabotage aimed at causing widespread disruption across the continent. Moscow, as expected, denies all allegations, calling them unfounded and labeling them as Russophobia. Yet, the claims aren't happening in isolation. 2 British men recently admitted to an arson attack on a commercial property linked to Ukraine. They've also pleaded guilty to other charges under the UK's new National Security Act, which was designed to address foreign state threats more effectively. And just last month, a group of Bulgarians were convicted of spying for Russia, another data point in what appears to be a pattern of GRU-linked activities aimed at destabilizing NATO countries through unconventional means. McCullen's remark about Russians' attempt to cause mayhem are now looking increasingly prophetic. From an intelligence perspective, the fire at the DHL warehouse may be just one example of how hostile states are adapting their tactics to exploit vulnerabilities in civilian infrastructure. These types of low-cost, deniable operations can cause real disruption without triggering conventional response. If these courier depot fires are indeed linked, it would point to a GRU campaign focused on psychological warfare, targeting trust in logistics, shipping, and general public safety. These attacks are covert, cheap, and deniable, but they pack a real strategic punch. This case fits a growing pattern of arson, espionage, and foreign interference, much of it attributed to the Russian military intelligence. We'll continue to watch for more details and related developments. But one thing's for sure, this story is part of a wider intelligence battlefield that's playing out far beyond the headlines. For our next story, we head to the United States, where we delve into CIA's assessment of its legal authorities concerning the use of lethal force against drug cartels, particularly in the light of Trump's administration's designations of certain cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, or FTOs. The CIA is currently reviewing legal authorities to conduct lethal operations against drug traffickers, especially those involved in smuggling fentanyl and other narcotics into the United States. This internal assessment follows the Trump administration's formal designations of 8 Latin American cartels as FTOs, which provides expanded counterterrorism tools, including covert operations. While President Trump has not ordered the CIA to undertake killings, the assessment aims to explore potential legal actions and associated risks. The review considers factors such as possibility of collateral damage to American citizens and the legal implications of conducting operations that could result in American casualties. This development highlights the U.S. government's increasing interest in adopting more aggressive tactics against drug cartels. CIA drones are already conducting surveillance over cartel operations in Mexico with the country's approval. The administration is also considering leveraging Title 50 to authorize covert CIA missions paralleling previous counterterrorism tactics used against groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Historically, the CIA has engaged in operations targeting drug cartels, such as the Air Bridge Denial Program, which involved using lethal force to intercept drug flights. However, this program faced challenges and was suspended due to incidents that mistakenly shot down a civilian aircraft in 2001. Analysts caution that employing traditional counterterrorism tools against drug cartels carries a higher risk of collateral damage to American citizens compared to operations conducted in regions like the Middle East. Legal experts are examining potential liabilities for the CIA if an American is accidentally killed during such operations. In response to the escalating threat posed by drug cartels, the U.S. has classified 6 Mexican cartels, including the Jalisco New Generation and Sinaloa cartels, as FTOs. This designation aims to address drug traffic issues, particularly the fentanyl crisis, and grant U.S. agencies broader authority to prosecute individuals supporting these cartels. While legal and ethical considerations are at the forefront of this assessment, the outcome may significantly influence U.S. counter-narcotics operations for many years ahead. We stick with U.S. intelligence news for our next story, where we're focusing on the investigation into potential FBI involvement in the January 6, 2021 Capitol Riot. U.S. intelligence agencies are examining possible FBI participation in the planning of the January 6 Capitol Riot. Joseph Kent, Chief of Staff to Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, addressed this topic during his Senate Intelligence Committee nomination hearing for the leading National Counterterrorism Center. Kent suggested that FBI confidential informants might have been active during the riot and alleged attempts to suppress related information. This investigation persists despite a December Justice Department report that found no authorized FBI involvement in the riot. The report confirmed that 26 FBI informants were in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, but none were authorized to enter the Capitol or engaged in violent activities. The Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General previously reviewed the FBI's handling of confidential human sources leading up to the Capitol attack. The review found that while the FBI had informants present, there was no evidence of orchestration or incitement of violence by these informants. Analysts note that while the presence of FBI informants is documented, their role appears limited to intelligence gathering without direct involvement in the riot's execution. In intelligence and national security, this is a standard policy referred to as agent provocateur, meaning that human sources and confidential informants must not engage in activity or promote activity that would otherwise be considered provocatory. The distinction between informant presence and active participation is crucial in assessing the FBI's role. In response to these findings, the FBI has acknowledged intelligence shortcomings and is implementing procedural improvements to enhance future event assessments and responses. While prior reports have found no direct FBI orchestration, ongoing inquiries suggest a need for deeper examination of intelligence operations and their boundaries. For our next story, we're heading to Taiwan, where 4 soldiers have been sentenced to jail terms for passing military secrets to Chinese intelligence. The case involves individuals who once held positions within Taiwan's Presidential Office Security Unit, raising serious concerns about insider threats and Chinese espionage activities. According to the Taipei District Court, the 4 soldiers were convicted of violating Taiwan's national security law. They allegedly provided internal military information to Chinese intelligence agents over several months between 2022 and 2024. 3 of the men were part of the military unit responsible for the security at the presidential office, while the 4th worked in the Ministry of National Defense Information and Telecommunications Command. Investigators say the soldiers took photos of sensitive documents using their mobile phones and shared them with their handlers in exchange for payments ranging anywhere from $7,800 to $20,000. The court noted that these men had worked in extremely sensitive and important units and that their actions had betrayed the country and endangered national security. Their sentences range from 5 years and 10 months to 7 years in prison. Espionage cases in Chinese intelligence operations in Taiwan have risen sharply in recent years. In 2024 alone, Taiwan's National Security Agency reported 64 individuals prosecuted for spying on behalf of Beijing, compared to 48 in 2023 and just 10 in 2022. The scale of the threat is immense. Back in 2017, Taiwanese authorities estimated that there were over 5,000 Chinese spies operating on the island. Some of these spies have included soldiers recording themselves pledging loyalty to Chinese Communist Party or declaring that they would surrender in the event of a Chinese invasion. Recruitment tactics reportedly included financial incentives, romantic entrapment, and appeals to disgruntled military professionals who feel overlooked or underpaid. The Institute for National Defense and Security Research in Taiwan have highlighted how Beijing capitalizes on low morale and economic dissatisfaction within the Taiwanese military. Dr. Shan Min-shi has pointed out that spies are often motivated by financial hardship or a sense of betrayal due to stalled careers. This latest case supports that analysis, given the relatively small payments involved, raising ongoing concerns about pay and retention across Taiwan's armed forces. In response to the growing espionage threat, Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te recently declared China a foreign hostile power. New counterintelligence measures are being rolled out, including plans to reinstate military courts to handle cases involving espionage and other serious offenses. The government also announced an increase in the base pay for military personnel, an attempt to improve both morale and reduce vulnerability to recruitment efforts by hostile intelligence services. The betrayal by these Taiwanese soldiers comes at a time of heightened tensions across the Taiwan Strait and adds to a growing number of espionage prosecutions in recent years. The case illustrates how insider threats and hostile recruitment continue to challenge Taiwan's national security, especially given the existential pressure from Beijing. They expect more prosecutions, more countermeasures, and heightened scrutiny of internal military loyalty in the months ahead. For those of you who are interested in learning more about human source motivation and intelligence collections, I'll leave a link to the University of Ottawa National Security Program course that I'm teaching in May. Register now, as class size is limited. Staying on the topic of Chinese spying, our next story highlights a suspected Chinese cyber espionage operation that exploited a critical vulnerability in Ivanti VPN products. Researchers believe this sophisticated attack, linked to state-sponsored group, showcases how quickly Chinese cyber actors are capitalizing on newly disclosed software flaws. On April 10th, cybersecurity firm Mandiant reported a newly identified campaign targeting Ivanti's connected secure VPN devices. The attackers are believed to be UN C5221, a group Mandiant and other experts has associated with the Chinese state-sponsored activity. The cyber actors exploited a stack-based buffer overflow vulnerability, designated CVE 2025-22457, to install malware from the Spawn ecosystem. This technique, along with attempts to manipulate Ivanti's internal integrity checker tool, points toward the same advanced tactics previously observed in other Chinese attributed intrusions. The compromise impacted several Ivanti products, including Connect Secure version 22.7R2.5 and earlier, the Legacy Connect Secure 9x line, Policy Secure, Ivanti's network access control platform, and Zero Trust Access, or ZTA gateways. Ivanti released a patch on February 11th and strongly advised that Policy Secure should not be exposed to the internet. They also clarified that neurons for ZTA gateways are not vulnerable when in production environments. This incident continues a growing pattern of Chinese cyber actors targeting Ivanti infrastructure. The company has been a recurring target due to its popularity in enterprise VPN deployments, making it a high-value access point for espionage operations. Mandiant's report also introduces two new malware strains, Trailblaze and Brushfire, both previously unknown. These tools were used in conjunction with known techniques to bypass detection and maintain persistence on compromised systems. Such attacks are part of a broader Chinese cyber strategy that includes rapid exploitation of zero-day and recently patched vulnerabilities, especially in edge devices like VPNs and firewalls. These operations often align with China's state-directed intelligence gathering priorities. Although the article doesn't quote experts directly, Mandiant's detailed findings and attribution are consistent with the long-standing concerns in the cybersecurity community. Chinese cyber operations frequently emphasize stealth, persistence, and targeting of key infrastructure across commercial and government sections. The exploitation of Ivanti products, shortly after patches are released, reinforces concerns that threat actors are closely monitoring vendor disclosures and acting faster than many organizations can apply security updates. While there's no official government response mentioned in this report, ongoing incidents like this are fueling wider discussions in national cybersecurity agencies about mandatory patching timelines, supply chain risks, and the critical importance of securing VPN gateways. Security experts continue to urge organizations to isolate sensitive infrastructure from the public internet and to closely monitor vendor advisories. In the case of Ivanti, specific guidance was issued to remove Policy Secure from internet-facing deployments and to verify the integrity of Connect secure devices using updated tools. This incident fits a well-established pattern of Chinese cyber espionage targeting network infrastructure and exploiting vulnerabilities within weeks or even days of disclosure. Organizations using Ivanti products should ensure they've applied the February 11 patch and follow Ivanti's guidance to prevent further intrusions. We continue to look at the issue of cyber exploitation by China as we head back to the US for this next story. Here we'll examine the testimony of former Facebook, now Meta, executive Sarah Wynne Williams before the Senate Judiciary Committee, alleging that the company compromised US national security in its dealings with China. Sarah Wynne Williams, who served as Meta's Director of Global Public Policy from 2011 to 2017, testified that the company prioritized business expansion in China over national security considerations. She claimed that Meta executives misled employees, Congress, and the public about their engagement with Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP, particularly concerning artificial intelligence, AI, collaborations. Wynne Williams alleged that Meta developed a censorship tool tailored for the Chinese market and shared sensitive information with Chinese officials under the initiative called Project Aldrin. These actions, she asserted, facilitated China's advancements in AI, potentially enhancing their military capabilities. Meta's attempt to penetrate the Chinese market has been long-standing. Despite Facebook being banned in China since 2009, the company sought avenues to establish presence. Reports indicate that Meta entered into data sharing agreements with Chinese firms, including Huawei, a company flagged by US and other Western intelligence agencies as a national security threat. The development of censorship tools and the alleged sharing of user data with Chinese entities raised concerns about the extent to which American tech companies might compromise democratic values and national security for market access. Lawmakers have expressed significant concern over these revelations. Senator Josh Haley has called for Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg to testify under oath regarding the company's dealings with China. He emphasized the gravity of the allegations, suggesting that Meta's actions might have sold out our country's security. In response to these allegations, there are increased calls for stringent oversight of tech companies' international engagements, especially with nations deemed adversarial. The potential for legislative actions to ensure that corporate pursuits do not undermine national security is growing. These allegations highlight the delicate balance between corporate expansion and safeguarding national interests. As the situation unfolds, it underscores the need for vigilance and accountability in the tech industry's global operations, as it can easily compromise national security. In our next story, we head to the Canadian campaign trail as we examine an alleged foreign interference operation during Canada's federal election, reportedly backed by Beijing. The operation, aimed at Liberal leader Mark Carney, was conducted on the Chinese social media platform WeChat. Canadian officials from the Security and Intelligence Threats to Elections, or SITE Task Force, have revealed that a targeted information campaign has been aimed to influence Chinese Canadian voters. The operation, launched by Yuli Yo-Mien, WeChat's most popular news account, is believed to be linked to the Chinese Communist Party's Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission. This platform-based operation sought to influence political opinion about Carney by spreading both positive and negative articles, with a focus on his alignment with the United States and his leadership credentials. The campaign used inauthentic, coordinated amplification to distribute content across multiple WeChat accounts, reaching as many as 1 to 3 million views. Articles in the operation primarily portrayed Carney as a tough guy prime minister and highlighted his alignment with US President Donald Trump against China. However, Canadian officials stressed that despite the foreign interference, it has not compromised the democratic process or voters' ability to make informed decisions. This interference campaign is just the latest in a string of Chinese state-backed operations aimed at influencing Canadian elections, Past targets have included Conservative Party members and former Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, as well as Mark Carney. The Chinese Communist Party's strategic goal appears to be to shape Canada's political opinion to favor candidates and political parties aligned with its interests. According to Bridget Walsh from the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, foreign threat actors like China are expected to continue targeting Chinese communities in Canada with narratives favorable to the Chinese government's objectives. This includes the potential use of AI-driven tactics, like deep fakes, to enhance the spread of disinformation during election periods. Despite these threats, officials have expressed confidence that such interference will not undermine the election's integrity. In response to these incidents, Canadian officials have bolstered safeguards against foreign influence in elections. The Site Task Force is working to alert WeChat parent company Tencent about violations of user policies. This highlights ongoing efforts to confront disinformation and foreign manipulation on media platforms. Although the operation sought to influence voters by amplifying both positive and negative narratives about Carney, Canadian officials have assured the public that it has not affected the fairness of the election process. Still, we have a few more weeks to go in this election race, and the continued presence of foreign interference in Canadian politics demands continuous monitoring and response to ensure Canadian voters maintain confidence in the election process. We're sticking with Canadian political candidates and potential foreign interference in our last story this week. We're delving into Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's response to allegations concerning financial support from associates of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his leadership campaign. A recent report suggests that individuals linked to Prime Minister Modi's administration may have contributed financially to Poilievre's Conservative leadership bid. In response, Poilievre stated that conducting Canadian Security Intelligence Service or CSIS background checks on donors is beyond the party's capabilities. He emphasized that the Conservative Party relies on donations from supporters and does not engage in extensive vetting processes. This new development has sparked discussions about the influence of foreign nationals in Canadian politics and the potential need for stricter regulations regarding political donations. Poilievre has been criticized for his reluctance to go through the necessary screening process to acquire his security clearance that would allow him to be brought in on top-secret level discussions regarding issues such as foreign interference and potential compromise of party members. While Poilievre's comments address the procedural aspects of donor vetting, they also highlight the complexities involved in ensuring transparency and integrity in political funding. The Conservative Party's fundraising practices have come under scrutiny, especially concerning the contributions from individuals with foreign ties. Ensuring that political donations are free from foreign influence is critical for maintaining the sovereignty of Canada's democratic processes. Political analysts argue that while parties may not have the resources to conduct comprehensive background checks, there should be standardized procedures in collaboration with intelligence agencies to prevent potential foreign interference. Strengthening regulations around political donations could enhance public trust in the electoral system. In light of these allegations, there may be calls for policy reforms aimed at increasing transparency in political donations. Such reforms could include mandatory reporting of donors, backgrounds, and stricter enforcement of existing laws to prevent foreign influence in domestic politics. The allegations that have emerged regarding financial contributions to Pierre Poilievre's leadership campaign from individuals associated with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are troubling. Poilievre's response regarding limitations in the Conservative Party donor vetting process seems less about process and more about deflecting attention. This situation underscores the ongoing debate about foreign influence in Canadian politics and the necessity for robust mechanisms to safeguard electoral integrity. Well, that's going to do it for this week. As always, the links to the open source articles are in the transcript. A quick shout out to the participants of my recent University of Ottawa online course, The Psychology Behind Human Sources and Intelligence Collection. Thank you for your input and participation. Until next week, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
That's a wrap for this week's Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. From a suspected Russian sabotage campaign in the UK to the CIA weighing lethal force against drug cartels, Taiwan's growing espionage crisis, and foreign influence creeping into Canada's election, these stories show how intelligence threats are becoming more complex, more covert, and more global. Bringing you this kind of expert insight takes time, research, and experience. If you found this episode informative, please take a moment to like, comment, and share the podcast. Your engagement helps spread awareness and brings these important stories to a wider audience. And if you'd like to support the show and help us continue delivering top-level analysis each week, you can do so through Patreon or Buzzsprout. Whether it's a one-time contribution or ongoing support, Every bit makes a difference, and we truly appreciate it. You'll find all the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening. And as Neil always says, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe. See you next week.